We're all critters. And I think if we surround ourselves with fear or negative thinking or worry about what's going on here, there, wherever, then that's what you attract, because we attract what we think about, what we feel in our heart and such. So the point is not to focus on the thing that is broken. It's not. Because if we focus on all the bad things in the world, that's what we're creating. That's what we manifest. That's what we bring into the world itself.
What do you feel it will take for us to be able to get to that purview and perception as a collective, to see ourselves as a human nation?
Well, unfortunately, we have to, because for the people that are resistant to shift or change, I think they will see the wars, they will see the fighting, they will see the division. And, I think it's going to take that. It will take something negative to happen in the world itself in different avenues, like those things you see on the news, whether it's like the war in Ukraine and Russia, or down in Israel and Palestine. It's division, right? When that happens, it shows that there's an imbalance, or there's not harmony there.
Shawn Leonard, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
Well, globally, I'd say just, in because I don't watch the news very much, but what I'm excited about is all the people I've been meeting wherever I've been going on my tours and my journeys through the world itself. And I've been down towards where you live. I've been in the US and in Canada and in Europe. And what I'm excited about is the shifting that is taking place within the world itself. That I feel like, it does feel like we have some growing pains of sorts within the world, but I feel like there's a consciousness that is taking place that is, where the old way of thinking, maybe the old religious structures maybe don't have as strong hold on people anymore, and where you're starting to find our own individual connection, our own spirit and source. And I feel like that's not just in Nova Scotia, Canada, where I live. That's I see this across Canada. I see it down in the US with different people, and down south. In all four directions, I'm seeing this take place. And that excites me, because that means the world is shifting and it's changing. And, we're not seeing each other as being separate or different. I'm seeing that we're a human nation. And I think that's a good shift in the world that needs to take place. Although there's still growing pains of the world. If I turn on the news, you'll find some. So I try not to watch it too much, because we're all critters. And I think if we surround ourselves with fear or negative thinking or worry about what's going on here, there, wherever, then that's what you attract, because we attract what we think about, what we feel in our heart and such. So as creators, I'm very mindful that I surround myself with good people, good teachings, and allow that to kind of ripple out into the world, as opposed to, looking at the good as opposed to what I think is wrong.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said seeing ourselves as a human nation. And I'm wondering, because I look out into the world, and I don't also, like you, I don't go too deep into the news, but sometimes I see things that pop up on social media and see what's going on. And I'm seeing a fragment of humanity that isn't seeing themselves as a human nation. We're seeing ourselves as separate nations here and there with borders and boundaries.
Yeah.
What do you feel it will take for us to be able to get to that purview and perception as a collective, to see ourselves as a human nation?
Well, unfortunately, we have to, because for the people that are resistant to shift or change, I think they will see the wars, they will see the fighting, they will see the division. And, I think it's going to take that. It will take something negative to happen in the world itself in different avenues, like those things you see on the news, whether it's like the war in Ukraine and Russia, or down in Israel and Palestine. It's division, right? And when that happens, it shows that there's an imbalance, or there's not harmony there. It's but it's trying to find its way through it all, and eventually it will, like this old structure and way of the lines and the wars and the countries will kind of cease to exist in that sense as we move forward as a human nation, where we work together. I think if we were to kind of fully embrace that, I think when people look at humanity and they think about the evolution of humanity, we often think in relation to technology, right? And you can look in the last 200 years, 150 years, and go, wow, you mean the human nation has taken leaps and bounds in the advancement of technology, right? Compared to we were for probably like tens of thousands of years with on Mother Earth. But I mean, our spirit has also been the same, because again, because there was all these old religious structures that really had a grip and, controlled in a sense, who we thought we could be, or our own personal connections and such. And that's losing its kind of hold upon us in a way that we can freely explore our spirit in the many avenues within the world through ceremony and different indigenous cultures and people, etc. So we kind of finding our own personal connection. And I do feel like, that the human nation, if we all kind of were more unified, not just spiritually, but even with our technology, if we stop seeing ourselves as enemies, I think the jump that we would have in technology would be immense, so immense, because instead of thinking that we have to build weapons to protect ourselves, or weapons to wipe out a nation, if we would just figure out how we can like explore the universe, because that's really we're all here to kind of do. Or once we eventually, in some point, the human nation is going to, and we've kind of stepped out on the moon, we've kind of stepped out into space, in the space station and different things. We've sent probes to Mars. But if we actually all work together, whether it was China and the US and Canada, or, Australia, etc., like, if all of the human nation, instead of like division and thinking it just has to be NASA that's doing this, or, China is going to be doing it independently, separate, because God forbid that China and US work together on something to take the human nation further out into the understanding of the universe itself, right? And it's because there's this fear base that we think that China might hurt us with their advancement of weapons, or we have to have better weapons to protect ourselves from them. It's a fear-based thinking, and it still exists within the world. But I mean, imagine a world, and I think this is where people like you and I and other spiritual people in the world can imagine a world that doesn't exist. And that's where that seed and intention of growth takes place within each and every one of us, is when we have a different vision, when we hold space for the potential of something much greater than thinking we have to be prepared for war, that we were prepared to advance as one nation and move out into the universe as we will. At some point in the humanity's time, we will. Hopefully we do it as a world, as a human nation, as opposed to thinking it's just US or China or Russia or whoever, that they're taking the first steps rather than human nations taking the first steps. And I think the old system will eventually have to kind of like fade away in some sense, and we have to come together and think how can we feed all the people of the world, how can we clothe all the people of the world, and not thinking that, because I know there's this egotistical sense within certain nations that we don't have enough, and people that don't have enough, we don't really give that much to, or we don't care that much about. It's more about us and our ego. And but in order for people to see and want things different, they have to see where it isn't working. I've seen that, and I don't have to continually to watch it. But once you see something isn't working in your life, I mean, it's the point is not to focus on the thing that is broken. It's not, because if we focus on all the bad things in the world, that's what we're creating. That's what we manifest. That's what we bring into the world itself. But if we look at the world and think, okay, what would be the vision that you could hold if it was optimally good for everyone? What would that look like for you? what would it look like for all of the world if it was in harmony, in peace and balance? And if you can hold that vision, and I can hold that vision, and other people out in the world can hold a vision that is similar to that, then that's what we'll start to create. And that has been taking place more because we're and what this is the most amazing thing. Like, look at us. You're in Colombia and I'm in Canada, and we're having a conversation through video. I mean, when I was a kid, growing up, I picked up my phone that had a cord, and and I just imagined a day that I could pick up my phone and even see my grandmom on there. It was just I would have thought it was amazing just to be able to talk to somebody and see them on the phone while you're talking to them. That was like mind blowing for me as a kid, thinking that that could be possible. Now look at us. I mean, it's so amazing. But instead of the old structures of like, and I think like, let's say all those news stations that you see on TV that propagate fear, or they're kind of like fading away a bit because they're losing audience. They're losing people who no longer wish to buy into that type of belief and system anymore. And they're tuning into a podcast, or they're tuning into, something online where we're freely able to speak to each other and look for something that motivates them, inspires them, helps them see the world in a much greater way, as opposed to just turning on something that makes them feel fear, worried, and have anxiety. And that's why there's a lot of illness within people, and especially like anxiety disorders and stress and fear and even depression, is because I think it's the propaganda of like how even people need to look. And like, I know so many people look at people on TV and think, well, I don't look like them, and I'm not good enough, or there's this that we create belief systems that aren't real. They're real for you because you've created them based on outside experience of seeing what you think is going on in the world, which really is just a small part of something of a TV show you see on TV, right? And I'm not saying there's amazing, great TV shows out there that are fun to watch, but I don't really base my reality of, what's going on Friends when I watch Friends or something. I don't base my reality on White Lotus or something when I watch it on TV. It's amazing shows, are fun, but that's why I watch them, for entertainment and not for self-worth or value, to make me think that I have to meet a certain status quo in life or anything like that. I don't think that at all. But some people do, unfortunately. Some people, think that I have to have more, or I have to stay at the White Lotus, right? To have like this type of like status in life that I've succeeded. And I think that's the farthest thing from the truth. And I think when you see all these people in the shows, which is, I think is funny, is they all have problems and there's stuff going wrong. It's never good. And it's just, they're all out of balance, and we're watching the chaos. And I think that's part of us. When we see these, it makes us feel a little bit better. Sometimes we can say, oh man, it's not just my life that's out of balance. Their life's out of balance too. And these people are all rich and all this, I mean, I think when we start to create our own beliefs and our own ideals about what the world should look at, what's going on inside us, that's what we feel in here is what ripples out into the world. And that's where we're creators. That's where we can create all the terrible things for ourselves sometimes. But what if you were to change your thinking? What if you were to change the way you see the world, what it could look like, and you held space for that inside yourself? What effect would that have on the world? How would you approach the world if you had a message, or you had something that you like to help people with? Are you getting out there and doing that in some way yourself? So I challenge, and I'm calling upon all light workers and people out in the world here today that have stepped into this world at this time, to rise up to the person that you had envisioned yourself to be. And it's not one of fear or not enough or lack or ego. It's one of love and connection, a compassion. It's one of source. And in my culture as a Mi'kmaq person, We have many ceremonies, and one of the things we always do is we start especially with the Mi'kmaq Nation and here in Eastern Canada, we start our ceremonies in the eastern direction because that's where the first light of the sun shines upon Mother Earth, and because we go to Source, that first sacred light, and that's always just being unconditional, loving, and it shines down upon the world, not like shining on only the good people. It shines on everyone. It's not like, okay, well, you're having some issues, I can't shine my light upon you. And that's that source of creator. So when you what a great reminder just to wake up and see the sun and remember that you are light as well. There is a light emanation body within you. You are a spirit here for a short time. You've probably had many times here, and we're all learning different things. But one thing I know we're all meant to learn is and remember is who you are. And it's not this person that I call Shawn. It's not Emilio. Who are you? You're much greater than this. And when you're in spirit, you think they have borders, you think they have countries, and you think they don't feed the hungry in the spirit world. You don't think that they're not helping, the all spirit. Then why do we come here and act differently than our source? It's time to be and remember that you are the source. You are that light. We're all connected. There's no separation in us. And that's something that in my culture, Indigenous culture, that I'm really happy about, that we have a word called Emsit Nogama, which means all my relations. It means we're all related. And that means not just the human nation. It means the plants, the animals, the trees, the oceans, the air. It's all connected. And we've forgotten not only how to care for ourselves and love ourselves, but we forgot to care for Mother Earth and our surroundings and honoring her and, allowing her to feed us in a good, healthy way. We've made her, many people in different countries have um, created unhealthy foods from, and even the soil we've kind of poisoned a bit so that we can even make our foods that we think are healthy even more unhealthy. We've gone backwards a little bit in some areas. And I think it's time for us to remember again who we truly are and our connection within it all, and bring that understanding and knowledge to the world. And I think when we all start to do that, then it's going to be amazing. And it takes you and me and every other person that comes to this knowing. And if enough people get into this way of thinking, nobody's going to turn on the news to watch the New York Times or watch CNN or Fox News or what have you. Nobody's tuning into that anymore. It'll have no ratings at all. It'll lose its mental brainwash of the world that it's had grips on people for so long, and they'll just and I think TV will be eventually a thing of the past. Entertainment would still always be here, but TV in the way that we've seen it when I was younger, growing up, and I mean that was the thing that you always caught the news, but now I try never to watch it unless I absolutely feel like I have to, and I only do because I heard a volcano erupted or something, and I'm more interested in what's going on with the people and how big the eruption is and stuff like that, what the impact is on the environment, as opposed to thinking you have to watch it to find out what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. I mean, there's an important part to understand that. But personally, I mean, I can't change anything. The only thing I can change is me, and not living in that fear of thinking that Canada's not big enough for other people, or that I can't be friends with my U.S. neighbors or any other people that are with me. It's like, we're friends. We should be friends. We should be helping each other and supporting each other. And even our two countries, the U.S. and Canada, have struggled in different ways. And I think it's silly. It's self-created dramas that don't need to happen. And it's not by me, it's by political structures, right? And I even think our politics have been out of balance in many countries. And I think I like to see the world rethink the way we've approached it with government and everything. And I'm hoping maybe it won't be in my lifetime. I'm hoping that it will take place down the road some point, and maybe I'll have to come back for 3 or 4 more lifetimes before that really takes root. But I signed up for this one, and I'm here now. I'll sign up again, I'm sure, and I'll come back if the Creator asks me to. And
Mm.
I feel like I've gotten wisdom to help influence the world in some way for the positive. Now I'm hoping that when I come back next time, I will have greater insight even further, and the world will be changed even in a positive way that will give me a little bit of um, added boost to kind of like find my way sooner. And I don't think it
Yeah.
matters like how old you are, how young you are. I mean, when you're on your spiritual journey, I think it's important that we really question, how no matter how old you are, and ask the question like, who am I? How am I showing up in this world? Where did I come from? What is my source? And when you start questioning things like that, you come back to truth. The premise, that we've come where that sacred light that is taken for.
Mm. You mentioned there the importance of this knowing of who we truly are and where we came from. At 16, you had a powerful visitation from your dad who had recently passed a year prior. And you've said that he helped you strongly remember who you
Yeah,
really are and where you came from. In your
he
personal
did.
experience, what happened there?
Well, I think there's moments in each person's life that things are going to help you see things differently, and we can choose to look at them and really think about them and think how this has changed me, or you can ignore it and push it aside and go about your everyday life. And I sort of did both. With my dad, losing my father at 15, I mean, it was very tragic, of course. I wasn't expecting to lose my father at 15 years old. I hardly saw him. He was always gone because he was in the military. He was in the Navy here in Canada. And he went away quite a bit on the Navy ships. So, I mean, unfortunately, when you're in the Navy, you have to sail places, and it takes a little bit of time to get there and a little bit of time to get back too. And you don't just come back right away either. So when he was home, I had a fairly good relationship with my dad. My dad was he was a good man. He had a good heart, but he wasn't perfect by any means. He is a little rough around the edges here and there. I mean, he drank a little bit here and there. He smoked and didn't eat very good. And I remember on weekends having bacon and eggs and cooking the eggs in the bacon fat, for God's sakes. So it's not surprising to think that, maybe a lot of his life choices contributed to his journey home, but maybe that was his journey in the first place, right? Who are we to judge? Because we don't know each person's journey. And at 42 years old, he did make his journey home. He had a massive heart attack. And it was a year later that he came to visit me in my basement, living at my mom's house. And I wasn't expecting him to come visit me. I wasn't like, holding my breath and waiting for my dad to come to me. I was just trying to recover and heal and process the grief that I had in my own individual ways at 16 years old. And one night after, many times sleeping in the basement and sneaking out my basement window because I didn't want to worry my mom, and I was going out to hang out with my friends. I came back, slept on the couch, woke up. It was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up to this light being in the basement room, and this light was about the size of a baseball to a basketball. And it was at the end of my mom's rec room, and it was the brightest, whitest light I've ever seen. And as I stepped up off the couch, I noticed when I stepped off the couch, I felt weightless. And when I was young, I used to have moments and memories of astral traveling. Because I remember as a kid, I could literally at will leave my body and fly around the neighborhood when I was sleeping. And eventually, as I got older, I wasn't able to do that anymore. And I hadn't done it in a while. And this was this experience again, yet I wasn't flying, was in my basement, and there's this ball of light. So as this ball of light grew and grew, to about the size of a person, out of this light walks my father. And I was like so happy to see my dad. I was so happy. And not only was I happy to see him, I was also angry because I was the one that tried to save him. I tried to resuscitate him out of the driveway after he passed. And, I knew no matter what I did at that time, he wasn't coming back. I cursed at him. I said a bunch of things, and I could feel he was listening to me when he passed. And I also could tell he wasn't going to listen to me to the fact that he was going to get back in his body either.
Wow.
And he knew I was angry. The minute I saw him, he just said, "Shawn, calm down. I know that you're angry a bit." I didn't even have to say anything to him. He just knew my heart. He knew what I felt. And he said, "I come to you with a few messages." And, one of those messages is, one, you have to remember to tell your mom that I'm okay. You have to tell your brother I'm okay. I'm like, I can do this. But as he was speaking, and I let that anger go because, it quickly faded. But I saw this light from where he stood. And he was wearing a long white robe. And I thought, what, that was another thing I thought, like, what the hell are you wearing, Dad? Like, why are you wearing a long white robe? This is
Change his fashion sense on the
I
other
know,
side.
like, he was not a guy to be wearing a white robe type of guy. Trust me. He'd be like, his work shirt, green pants, smoke behind the ear, his glasses on, for
He had
God's
a
sakes.
fit upgrade. He upgraded.
Exactly. Yeah. He looked healthy. He looked well. He looked younger too. And then I saw that light behind him. And when I saw it, I knew it was source. I knew it was the creator. I knew it was home. And that we exist within this space. I could feel it. And I so wanted to go into that light. And anything, and at that point I'm thinking, my God, we live in some type of alternative reality. This is not real. Me with my mom and the life that I'm living is just something I'm temporarily doing, but I'm not meant to be here for long. That this is my home. This is where I've come from. And I've been there many times, and I'm ready to go. I would have left in a second to go through that light to see my father and spend time with him and see whoever else was over there. And he got him away, and he says, "No, Shawn, you're not coming in here." And I said, "Well, I'm just going to go check it out for a few minutes."
Was it like
And
a
he says,
portal that opened up in the white
"It was
light?
a portal." It was like he was standing out just outside the light, and the light just was about the size of him, behind him. And I tried to walk past him to get into the light. And it was like a doorway from here to the other side, like a portal. And he I tried to walk past him and get in my way. I'm like, I'm going to go check it out. I'll be right back.
Like
Don't
one of
worry.
those bouncers, you know? He was a
Yeah, it's
bouncer
like,
for
no,
the
no,
for
no.
the other
You
side.
can't, like, yeah, it's past your bedtime. You got to go back to bed. No, he wouldn't let me in. And I'm like pleading with him. I just let me go check it out. I'll be right back. I'm just going to go. I just want to take a look. And he's like, no. He says, if you go here, you're not going to want to come back. Like, oh, I'll come back. And I knew I was lying, because if I could get my arse in there, there's no way you're getting my arse back out. You'd actually have to fight me to get back out. Because I was like, I'm going home. Any thought of my life or anything that you think in the world that I think is important meant nothing. I loved everybody, and I loved all my friends. I loved everything. And I loved the fact that I had life, but that is my life. This is just a temporary life. And he said, well, you can't go. And I'll tell you why. Because you have a purpose for being here that you have not fulfilled. I'm like, purpose? Like, what the hell is this purpose thing? And he says, well, long before you or I were born, we made a promise to each other, like a contract, he said, that I would leave your life. And that not only would I leave your life, that I would be the one after I left your life to show you this space, to show you where we come from. I said, why would we make such a stupid plan? This is like the dumbest plan that I ever thought. That, like, why would you have to die to show me this? And he said, because that's what we'd agreed upon. I'm like, well, I don't remember making that plan. And he's like, well, we did. And I kept trying to walk past him. And he says, no, one day you're going to be helping people. And you need to remember this. This is the other message I'm bringing to you. You need to remember who you are. And you're going to be helping other people remember who they are too. And you're going to be bridging this connection between this world and the other world. I'm like, bridging this connection? Like, what do you mean bridging a connection? Because you don't, and I said, how am I supposed to do this now? I'm like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Because trust me, you don't have to do anything. It's just going to happen. And I thought it sounded like silliness to me, really. I was just like, this is the most silliest thing ever. Like, just let me go to the other side. And then he stopped me one last time and he showed me what it would look like for my mom if I left. And I saw and I felt all of her pain and her grief. And it was like, even though she was grieving for a year up to this point, it'd be 7 more years of grief and pain that she would struggle through because I would leave,
Wow.
and it would compound her grief and suffering from the loss of my
Wow.
father and myself. And it was profound. And I felt it all for a moment. Then he showed me what it looked like from my brother. Now, my brother would get over me and my dad sooner because he was young. He was only 12 years old, and his process of grief was much shorter, and he would overcome it much sooner. But it still was a struggle for him. And then I reasoned with my dad. I said, listen, no matter how much mom suffers, no matter what she goes through, even if she dies, she's just going to come home to us. She'll be in the same space we are. I'm sure, no matter what she struggles through, that one day she's coming home to us, it'll be just fine. She'll just it'll be like it didn't happen. It'd be like it was like it just a blink of an eye. He says, no, that's not her purpose. You have a purpose and she has a purpose. And this is an alternative scenario that you're not meant to take. He says that you need to remember what I told you. And he touched me on the forehead and I woke up. I was on the couch looking at the wall, thinking about how what just happened here and what the hell is he talking about? And I thought, well, as soon as mom gets up, I'm going to tell her, I'm like so happy. And I'm going to tell my mom that dad had come to visit me and what he said and all this. So my mom wakes up, I tell her, and I thought she'd be really happy. She was freaking pissed off. And
Pissed off.
she was mad. She goes, doesn't he know how much I needed to have that visit? Doesn't he know how much I miss him?
Oh.
So she was like really like envious of that connection that I had. And she was
Mm.
struggling. And I had been, even though it was only a year, because I guess when you're young, right, the process of grief and healing is different. It's quicker, I'd say. But she was
Mm.
still very much heavy in her grief. And it would take my mom about 3 years to fully kind of like process that loss. And then she would meet somebody, another man named Larry, who was also in the military, and then eventually get like very short time after remarry and move on with her life. And but she wasn't in the space yet to make the connection with my dad. In that 3-year time, he did visit her. He did come to her. He did connect to her in a dream and talk to her. And but just because she needed that time. And I think everybody in spirit, that it's not that they don't want to connect and communicate to us, they do, but they have to honor who we are, what we're here to do, our process, our healing, our journey. And they have to give us that time to do it. It's not that they're like ignoring us or don't love us. I'm sure they do all kinds of things to let us know that they're around. They leave us dimes or messages or feathers, or the song comes on just at the right time that they're trying to communicate that they're still around. They look for subtle ways. And then when they see a time is right, then they'll profoundly make a connection. Just to say I'm okay, or I'm alive, I'm well, I'm in a good space, I'm healthy, And I wish all people would have that experience so much sooner after losing somebody, but sometimes it takes years and years. But they eventually will come through in a good way to kind of let you know that they're okay.
Mm. What a beautiful story, man. Thank you for taking us there. I was feeling all the feels throughout that. And one of the things that really stuck with me is when your dad decided to show you the gates of heaven or the other side, home, and you weren't allowed in. From that point on to where you are now, have you been able to get more familiar with that realm and what is within it? Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode.
Yeah. I mean, since then, I mean, I'm 53 years old now. So I was 16 when that experience happened. So I've had a lot of life experience between now and then. And I've had several times where I've had dreams where I've gone to the other side. And now that I've adjusted my thought process about being here, then they're like, okay, well, we can show you a little bit more now. Because at that time, I was willing to like literally fight to keep myself in the light. I was like, no way you're bringing me back here. But now I've accepted the fact that I'm meant to be here, that there's a purpose, and I'm fulfilling my purpose as greatly as I can. So then they'll say, okay, well, now we can show you a little bit more. We can show you something to help you understand more deeper, where we exist and what that looks like and how we coexist on the other side and what that feels like, the human nation and our connection to the animal nation, etc. Even within the plant nation on the other side, how we're all connected, that there's a spirit in everything and not just in the humans that are upon this world. And one of the things I've seen a few things. There's two experiences that I've had where I've gone to the other side. And one of those experiences, which I think was amazing, it was like, it was a while ago. I can't even remember when exactly, probably like 15, 20 years ago. And I had this experience where I was in a dream, and I was, at this point, I've been walking this journey as a spirit talker. And I've been teaching and helping and serving people and doing sessions or readings, etc. And then one night in a dream, I wake up and I'm in this classroom. And it looks like a university classroom of sorts, but there's not many people there. There might have been like 20 people in the class. And it was very Romanesque. There was like kind of like curved rows that were, some were lower and some were higher, but maybe about 4 or 5 rows of curved seating. We're sitting on kind of marble benches in this space. And for whatever reason, I'm in this space and I'm wearing a long white robe now. And I don't know why the hell I'm wearing one.
Now you have the robe.
Yeah, now I got it. Like, how the hell I end up in this? Like,
it's the trend on the other side. It's like the fashion statement.
It's like, they have no fashion sense, man. Like, it's like, I think they've just got one fashion and that's it. I think, well, because I think it's very simplistic, like body covering. It's not like extravagant anyway. Do I see people sometimes
they go shopping, they're like, do you want the white robe or the yellow one?
With the little off-white robe. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Would you like the brown robe or the blue robe? It's very simple. Yeah. And so everyone else was wearing something similar, and there was one guy at the front, and he's talking, and I'm with this guy who I know is my guide. And I'm like looking at him, I'm looking at the guy at the front, and I'm like, the professor, the guy who's teaching the class goes, excuse me, sir, are you supposed to be here? I'm like, I don't know what the hell I am, man. I don't know. I don't even know who you are. I don't know. Like, is this my guide? Like, where am I? What's going on here? And then I hear my guide talking to him, but I can't make out what he's saying. It was like, was not meant for me to be heard. It was like almost like And the funny thing is like, if you ever look this up online, there's this old skit of Charlie Brown. And like, do you know who Charlie Brown is? Like the comic cartoon character?
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
there's
I'm
this.
old enough for that one.
Right. So there's a teacher in Charlie Brown's in the cartoon, and when he talks, the teacher always goes wah 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 wah. You can't make out what anything the teacher's saying, but him
Mm.
and my guide are having this conversation, and it sounds just like that. I'm like wah 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 wah. I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And then the professor, after that little, you know, conversation is finished, he looks at me and goes, "You are supposed to be here." Like, well, I guess, or whatever he said. I don't know. And he goes, "Okay, let's get into today's lesson." And I'm like, "Okay, let's get into today's lesson." And I'm looking around to see who else is here, and I don't recognize anyone else. And he goes, "Today we're going to talk about how we organize the DNA within a human to correlate with your life chart and your purpose, so that it's written in the code itself of your DNA." And I'm like,
Whoa.
"Okay, what?"
I would have went to
And
school for that one. I'd
right.
sign up for
It
that
was like
class.
there's a complex coded language within the human DNA itself. And it's
Wow.
not, and he says, for you, because you're new here, he said, he goes, you may understand that with the human DNA, it dictates your eye color, you're predisposed to a heart condition that, because of your genetics, etc. There's things written in your code that is there that you're going to be facing in certain things. It's going to show whether or not you struggle with weight issues, or you're going to be stocky, and your hair color, etc. That's all written in your DNA because of your genetics from your parents and your ancestors. But there's a whole bunch in here that is uniquely just for you. And this is where we write in the code of your purpose, your struggles, your life themes, the things that you're going to like be facing. And it's written in there in a language like computer language of sorts, he says, but it's written in your DNA. And I'm like, my God, this is amazing. And then he says, "Oh, we're not done yet." He says, it goes beyond the human nation and the human DNA. He says, it's within everything. There's a code within all living things. And he takes me outside, and he has this is pre-cell phones, mind you. Like, he looked like he had a cell phone in his hand, and cell phones didn't exist when, I had this dream. We're outside, and he touches a plant with it, and he shows me the screen. And he goes, "Look at this." And I look at it, and he goes, "Well, these are its parents, and this is how long its parents lived. This is its purpose for being here. It's a rock quarry, and there's only one plant growing in it. And this is what it's learning within the rock quarry." It's like, and he says, every plant, every blade of grass has a purpose. This is too big for me to think about.
Whoa.
This is bigger than me. This is like so big that I can't comprehend it. I mean, and he says it's within all living things within the world itself. There is I mean, they didn't show up to not know that it was supposed to be a plant. Of course, it was supposed to be a plant. It was a seed, and within the seed of that plant had all the things that it was supposed to be within it, just like each human that comes into this world. And I'm just like, this is amazing. I'm like, so, and then I wake up thinking, this is like this is the strangest dream I've ever had. And this is like, so like cool. I'm talking to my guide. I'm in this university. I'm learning about, there's a hidden language with it. And he said, the other thing I remember him saying is that one day we're going to discover it. And they have somewhat, a little bit, because, I think, based on chromosomes and DNA, they're able to kind of break down the human DNA in itself and kind of see that, some people are going to have health issues, or they're more predisposed to like dementia or Alzheimer's because of their genetics that's in there. But there could also be stuff in there that this person's going to struggle with the law because they're more within the genetics because of this coding. We're able to see that this person might be a criminal. Or we also are able to look in the coding and say, oh, this person, based on the chromosomes, we're going to say, even though they're male or female, are going to be two-spirited. They're going to be gay or bisexual. So they're meant and were born this way for a reason. It was written in their code for them to be who they need to be in life. And we're able to figure out some of these things now. But I mean, if I would have told people like this 50 years ago, they would have thought I was insane. But we're starting to figure out the code a little bit more greater at this time. And I think eventually we'll be able to know, we'll be able to I think some point down the road, we'll be able to take the human DNA and go, you should probably think about going to university to be a doctor. Or maybe you should join the military or law enforcement or something like this, because that's where it's written in your code that you're more predisposed to have happiness or joy if you follow this path. So it won't be like, well, I don't know who I am, I need to find this. We'll have a suggestion in life about, where we would probably feel like we need to kind of explore, because people have different life themes. They have different within these life themes. So there's a main life theme, and then there's a secondary life theme, and then one of these other life themes grain against this other life theme, and we'll be able to figure out what our life themes are, sort of based on that. You're going to be a great psychologist, or etc. And I think that's going to be more known down the road.
Did you get any insight there about who or what writes that code?
We do. Well, not just you and your guides. It's written in the Akashic records. It's written in scrolls, literally scrolls that unroll like DNA. And it's written in there by us. When we decide on all of our parents, our life lessons, things like that, and then our option lines and the things that we struggle with, or our tough times, our desert periods, it's all put in there. There's also like exit points written in there, because there would be a point that we could lose our life if we're not on a right path, if we're off track, that there's an option for them to bring us home, because we've come in here and we're not fulfilling our purpose. So they will yank us out at a certain time. So we may get canceled at a certain place to say, okay, well, it's time to bring you home. Or if you're not following this path at this point, something tragic will happen to bring you home. And that's why I feel like sometimes there's near or close calls for people, but they survive remarkably. And many of these people even have like near-death experiences, and they go and they send them back, and they come with a newfound vision of life, of who they're supposed to be and express. And then they see life completely differently, and they show up differently. And it's because sometimes we need to be reminded what we signed up for. And maybe that's written in our chart too, to say, hey, maybe if I'm not on track, give me a close call, bring me home and remind me, and then send me back, because if I'm that far off, I'm going to need a little nudge here. And then some people, I feel like, even with suicide, I think that, people off track, because I feel like people who struggle with suicide sometimes they lose focus of who they are, and the hope that they have for themselves in life. And then it becomes so overwhelming, because we're creators, because we can, not only do we create our life on the other side of the plan for life, but it's still us here to live that plan, to express. We still have free will to make good and bad choices and take on additional karma, and to create our intended purpose while we're here. But there's also like times where we could take ourselves home. And I know people that have lost their way and have taken themselves home, unfortunately. And I've spoken to many people in the spirit world who've lost their life because of suicide, have chosen to take their life because of suicide. And I just had a friend recently that took his life, unfortunately, and it deeply hurts me, because if I would have known how deep he was down that rabbit hole, I would have made way more time for him and spoke to him way more in depth, and tried to help him even greater than what I did, which was very small. Because his name was Shawn as well. I read about him in my book. I think there's a small part in there. He was a security guard that this is when I was first awakening, let's say, to my psychic and intuitive abilities. And this big burly kind of security guy moved into my department at the office furniture place, and he walks by me. And the minute he walked by me, all I could think about was, I should buy a pony. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to ask this big burly guy if he's going to be buying a freaking pony. And I'm like, they got the better of me. I'm like, okay, Shawn, please don't beat me up, but I have to ask you this question, buddy. And this is the weirdest question probably anybody's going to ever ask you, but for whatever reason, are you contemplating thinking about buying a pony? And, and he goes, how
At
well
least you
would
didn't
you
say
know?
unicorn. At least you didn't say unicorn.
Yeah. How did you know that? I'm like, I didn't really know. It was just as soon as you walk by, I started thinking about I should look for a pony online to buy somewhere. And I'm like, I don't want a pony. And but for some reason you must. And he goes, yeah, we have a little girl and we have an acreage and we're thinking about getting her a pony. I was just looking up online about buying her one. I'm thinking about whether we shouldn't or shouldn't. And I'm just like, oh wow, okay. So this is real. You're really doing this. And he goes, yeah. And he was like, man, that's so, and because of that conversation I had with him, that is so strange. We just kind of clicked, and so throughout all the years, and this is like in my late 20s, early 30s, I'd say, when that happened. He just he always stayed in contact with me, despite where we were in life, and we were much different people, because he's he's kind of a different fellow. I mean, he's a big guy. He likes hunting. He's got guns, and he's kind of like the stereotypical of like what you would call like an Albertan in Canada. We have like a province where there's a lot of people that drive big trucks and have guns, and they think differently than a lot of other people in the country. And he'd be one of these people. But despite our differences, it didn't matter. I have no judgment in any way about anybody that lives their life like that, and I understand that people all have different things that make them tick in life, right? And but we always, he'd always talk to me about spiritual things. And he read my book, and he watched my TV show in Canada, Spirit Talker, and he wanted to come see me at live. And I was just in the province that he was in, but he didn't come, and I didn't see him. And I was like, okay, I wonder what happened to him. He didn't show up. And then I got a message after. He goes, oh, no, sorry, Shawn, I didn't make it to your event. I've been going through some stuff and I'm having a really hard time. And he said, you think that, you could help me on a personal level? And I said, well, I'm not sure what you're going through exactly, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with relationship stuff. But I said, I think you probably should go talk to a therapist or counselor, or you need to go talk to somebody in that field that specializes in that. And he goes, yeah, okay, thank you. And that was it. And then I got home from my tour, and pretty much the day after I got home, I got a message from a friend who is friends of his family, and they said, "Did you hear about Shawn?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "What's wrong with Shawn?" He goes, "Well, he just took his life." I'm like, "Oh my God, no way!" He just messaged me like literally like on April 21st, and was telling me that he was looking for some help and such. If I known that's how deep and dark he was down in his desert period, I would have, all he had to do was tell me, talk to me and just open up to me a little bit and tell me a little bit more. And then I would have like stopped and took time and see if I could talk him through it. But this is an exit point, right? This is what I'm saying about exit points that we write in. There's different things we go through in times that we could lose our life. We could journey back home if we feel lost. There's an unconditional loving creator, and nobody over there is going, how did you fail this, right? Like nobody's saying that. They're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that this was too much for you. And but we have many lifetimes. It's not just this one. And nobody is hoping that you're going to lose your faith in yourself. Nobody on the other side is like, they all want you to succeed. They all want you to accomplish what you've come here for. And that's why our guides are there helping and supporting us, but they can't live our lives for us, and they can't make choices for us. We ultimately still have that free will that we could take ourselves out at any point if we choose to. But you don't avoid karma. This is the thing. And I think a lot of people don't get this. Even if we were to take ourselves out and go to the spirit world, you still have like so much of your life thing that you've written out that you've not accomplished. It doesn't just go away. You're like, okay, well, apparently I'm going to have to come back and see if I can finish that up at a different time. But I'm going to wait till everybody comes home and see who wants to go and do it with me, with my family, my friends, and see who other people come back and see if I can fit this into their time frame too, because I'd like to face the same thing again, but maybe I'll make it a little bit different so that I will succeed this time, and I won't lose faith in myself and lose hope for my life. And so that's why we have forever too, right? It's not, there's no judgment. It's just when we see ourselves on the other side, and even with him just recently, I I talked to him a little bit since he passed. And first of all, I was telling him how pissed off I was. And I was like, "You jackass! Like, why the hell did you not tell me more?" And he's like, "I'm so sorry. I should have talked to you more. I know I should have said more." And I'm like that. I said, I understand. I forgive you, but just got to give me a little bit of time to overcome because I'm a little disappointed, but I don't want it to affect you, but it's my disappointment, and it's because I didn't. And it's I feel like I failed by not really feeling the depth of where you were, and it has nothing to do with you. And I'm sorry that I wasn't a better friend to see or feel that at the time. So it was really about what's going on with me that I was angry. It's not about what his choice, because I feel sad for him and his family, and because of this experience. I mean, I've talked to him since then. I just finished my second book with Hayos. It's called Walking a Spirit Animal Totems, but I'm writing another book after this. I'm starting in July. It's due in January that I have to submit it to Hayos, but I'm going to write a story about him in that book. And I'm going to talk about, because my next book is about, I'm calling it Grandfather, Son, and the Seven Directions of Manifestation in the Life that we co-create. That's the book I'm calling it. And but I need, I'm going to use his story of showing how, we co-create our lives, but we can also lose faith in the life that we're co-creating. And, what the result of that is and what it looks like, not just for them, because he's moved into a most amazing space that he could possibly be. But it's the people that are behind that have that pain, that additional hurt, that karma that they have to work through, like his children. How much they're going to feel when they have children themselves and their grandfather's not going to be physically there to spend time with them. And I think we don't think about fully the impact that we have on the world around us, and not just, just our purpose, but our family, the people that we love, our friends, and how much, that void of you has an impact on so many other people's lives.
May I ask you a question around that?
Sure.
That is really coming through strongly. When you described your father's experience where he exited through a heart attack, how is that different from someone who exits by way of free will and takes their life intentionally?
It's not different, really. It's just different for us. But I do feel like there's exit points, and there's exit points, and then there's your final exit point. There's a point where you're meant to make your journey. You're going home.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. You have terminal cancer. You've done everything.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
And that was written in the DNA. That was part of the purpose.
Written in the DNA. You've gone to healers. You've made the life changes, and you still pass away and make your journey home to the spirit world. Mm-hmm. There was nothing that you could have done to avert that. You were going home. You learned through the whole process of dealing with cancer and that illness. Because, choosing to take your life is still an illness. I think it's the illness of our mind that has caused us to lose our life. And it's an illness still, right? It's still written in your chart that you're going to face this. But I think with certain illnesses, we have a choice to overcome, to heal. And I do feel like even cancer for some people is a choice to survive, to live, to continue on. And that's their purpose. That's one of their purposes, is to kind of fulfill. And like just speaking of like some people in the world, like I know of one profound story that I think is amazing. It was Nina Morjani. I don't know if you know that story.
Yeah, she's been on the show. I love her.
Oh, has she? Yeah, she's an
Yeah,
amazing lady,
yeah.
and Eos author as well. And she faced cancer herself and is terminal, and and she had this recovery, and obviously she had much more to do because of that experience, and that's why that it was an exit point, but it wasn't one that she was meant to take. It was one
Mm.
that she was meant to face and overcome, to help her to step into this new person that she has become because of it. And I think mental illness is like that too. I think when we face mental illness in life, that it's something we're meant to overcome. It doesn't mean you will, but I feel like it's always something that we're meant to overcome.
That's so powerful. And a few words that I heard while you were explaining that story is that there is a higher self correction system, whatever that means.
Yes.
But what I can tell is that there is our higher self, our soul, that self corrects us. So it sends us these experiences to wake up and get back on track. And then there is
Yes.
a game over button that,
Yeah.
because of our free will, we can press at any time.
Yes.
But it's not the ideal route, right? Would
No.
that be fair to say?
No, it isn't, because
Mhm.
when we choose a life, we're meant to live it to the very end, until the Creator says you're coming home. I'm taking you home, whether you like it or not. You're coming. And I don't think it's like in any type of malicious or evil way. It's just that this is who you are. You're meant to go home. You're not meant to stay here. None of us are. None of us are meant to be here. Otherwise, people would be living forever in the physical body. And we've created the physical body. We've coded it. The Creator's coded the physical body to not last forever. It's only meant to last maybe 125 years tops. There's no, you're going to be here for 1,000 years. You're coming back to source, because that's who we are first and foremost. We've only left source to explore the understanding of who we are through the many lifetimes, and discovering, really, because how do you really know that you're spirit that is unconditionally loved, unless you can move into a world where you have to find that and discover it, because you can't see it in everything.
Mhm.
And that's why that ascendant master consciousness exists. Is that's why there's so many people that aren't probably returning to this body or form anymore, like, let's say, Yahshua or the Buddha or Muhammad. There's many ascended masters in many cultures. White Eagle. I know there's a Indigenous person named White Eagle that is. Do I feel like sometimes they'll return? Hence, why do you think that Jesus was prophesied to come back? Because he'd taken a skip out for a long time, but there was prophecy that said this man was going to come back and profoundly and shift and change the world. We knew he was coming. There was like people were having prophecies and dreams and connections that this man was coming to shift the world in this most amazing way, right? Ascended master, prior to ever stepping into human form, knew who he was and his connection, and was willing to die to show people that death was not an end, and had no fear. Now, is that everyone's purposes? No, but that was his. That was his journey to allow that wisdom to echo in time, hopefully in the most amazing and good ways. And that's not always the case, but that's the human condition, I think, sometimes. Because again, we forget who we are. And he obviously knew who he was, and he knew he was the Creator, and he's told everybody, like, I am God, I am source, I am Creator. If we say that today, some people might think you're loopy if you say something like that, but he knew it 2,000 and somewhat years ago, and it's taken that long for us to kind of embody some of that wisdom today. And there's been, that's where I started this, is that there's been this kind of like almost fear, control, and brainwash of sorts that have taken place in the world to kind of strip us from that ability to do so. But the old systems are losing their kind of grip of that, and now we're not going to cathedrals to find our spirit to say, okay, this is how it's done. And, you're just a peasant, and, you have to bow down to your source, and like a peasant does to like a king on a throne. It's like a hierarchical thinking of what we've created in relation to what a creator is, which is so much greater than that, like just amazingly greater than that. And even our government structures they've kind of followed suit in the same ways in some sense. And in the news and things like that, they still like, propagate fear and things like that out into the world. And people are catching on to all this. And now less and less people are showing up at cathedrals. Doesn't mean that there's all bad in cathedrals and people that, preach, the word that they believe it may be, but it's hurt a lot of people for a long time. And it's time that it doesn't anymore. And that there's no judgment, and there's no you're going to hell, and there's no, this is my land and not yours. I mean, we're one people, we're one nation.
In the beginning, when we asked the question about the other side, and you said that you've had two very profound experiences.
Yes.
I think the
I only talked
schoolroom
about
one was
one.
the first one.
Yeah.
If you
So
want, if you feel comfortable to going into the
oh,
second one, I
absolutely.
feel like,
I love sharing. I
yeah.
mean, I absolutely love sharing. I like, it's just, I mean, you don't have experiences in life unless the creator intended you to share it. Because I mean, the
Mm.
creator didn't gift me this, say, listen, here, this is for you, never tell anybody about this. That's not how this works. It's like, okay, I've given you this experience, share it with people so that they can understand the greater whole themselves too. And maybe that will
And
help
it's
them
your
to further connect.
truth as well.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yes.
Sharing your truth.
So there was another time I was on the other side, and I went to this auditorium. I didn't know why I was going to this auditorium. And I saw all these people walking into this auditorium that look like a massive Coliseum, bigger than anything I've seen in the earth itself. And it was so massive. And there was like literally millions and millions of spirits that were going to this event at this Coliseum on the other side. And again, very Romanesque Coliseum on the other side. I don't know why it's like that over there, but for whatever reason, just like the togas and everything else they're wearing, there's very kind of Romanesque looking things. Maybe we've agreed upon a general way things will look, and that's kind of appeals to everyone, I guess. And so I'm at this Coliseum, and when we walk into the building, I notice people shifting from being in form. Now, like me and you, we're in form. We have a body, right? But this Colosseum, even though it's massive, there's so many people there that we would not fit there unless we shifted form to our essence, our source, which is an orb of light. So there's an emanation of that orb of light that's within every living thing, that spark of the divine, whatever you want to call it, your spirit. So some people would just become that orb of light. And they would go into the Coliseum, and you could literally fit all people, and there would be enough room, more than enough for everyone, if we all go back to our source, which is just light. And we're all individual sparks of that light. And I could see all the lights within the Coliseum. And I'm just looking around. It's like, you're at a concert and you see everybody lighting their lighters, but it's not lighters. These are just people. They are the light. And I'm just looking at how massive this place is and how many millions of people are here. And only a couple people still maintain form. And then somebody walked into the middle of the auditorium, and I'm not sure who it was. A master teacher, an ascendant master. And they were teaching a lesson or talking to us about the life experience or talking to us about facing certain things within life. And he was like a teacher or somebody who was sharing wisdom and knowledge. And we were all just listening to this person speak. And even though I felt like I was miles away, it was like he was as close to that you are to me. It was like I could see him. I didn't need to have eyes. I could just see him like I was sitting right in front of him. And he spoke and talked and taught for a little while. And then when he finished, everybody left and we walked outside. And then the minute that we walked outside, it's almost like Hogwarts of sorts, Some people retain their form, they would go back to having a body. And it wasn't just the bodies that they just lived in either. Some people retained the body, or they liked the body that they had like 6 lifetimes ago, or 7 lifetimes ago. That was their favorite. So they're gonna hang out in that one for a
We
while.
pick our favorite bodies.
Yeah, we do. Like, and then sometimes we change. It's like changing clothes. We don't change clothes. We'll change bodies.
I'll have the one with the
But
6-pack.
exactly. Yeah, I was like, when I was 28, when I had that 6 pack and I was a little ripped and I could run like the wind, I'm gonna go back to that one. Yeah, that was it was kind of like that a little bit. That it was like it's what brought you joy. Whatever brought you joy is how you choose to show up. It's more about joy and the expression of joy than it is anything else. It's not ego at all. It's just I felt so joyful from this lifetime that I appear. And when my dad, also has lived many lifetimes, if I was to meet him, he always would appear to me as I remember him. But I know when we make our journey home to the spirit world, if he would show up to me as someone else, I would still recognize him. I would see the essence of his soul and know who he was. It wouldn't be, who are you? I'm like, oh, I know you. You're my father. Dad, I haven't seen you in so long. Let's sit down and have a conversation, or let's spend some time together. Let's share some time. And then he would go do whatever he needs to do over there, and I would continue doing what I need to do. And our soul family is so immensely large because of our many lifetimes. It'd probably be pretty hard to not walk by and meet people that you haven't like connected to in one lifetime or another. But anyway, when we left, some people took on form, and not everybody did, though. Not everybody chose to move around in the spirit world with a body. Some people just chose to retain their light only. And I don't know why. I know when I left, I returned to my form as I appear today. And I saw some other people, but many people didn't. They went about doing whatever they needed to do. And I don't even know what they needed to do. They just left and went on their own way. I was just watching everybody. And then I woke up and I thought, this is amazing. Like there's so much more to us than just this one body and experience. There's the cumulative experience from our many lifetimes, and there's joy in all of them, and there's connection and family in all of them. It's our soul family is much larger than you can even comprehend. And I think that's an experience that a lot of people have. Usually we meet our immediate family or people that we had just lost previously when we make our journey home. But then after that, there's like literally thousands and thousands of people that are waiting to say hi to us still because of our connections to them. And maybe one lifetime, I was a father to other children, or I was the son of another father, for different reasons and different purposes. But we see each other as all being related anyway. Because that's like I said, that's the indigenous teaching of like all my relations. We are all related. It's just a belief that we're not related. It's something that we've taken in hold of that, or we're just Canadian, or we're just American, or Chinese, in China, it's we've separated ourselves so immensely, or I'm just Baptist, or you're Catholic, or you're Protestant, or you're Buddhist, it's those are there's truths in all faiths and religions. There is in all, because it's everybody's deepening connection to spirit, to trying to understand who you truly are. And there is like truth in them all, but there's also a lot of untruths in them all too. Unless you find one that is kind of unifying in a sense of like being open to taking what you need from all faiths and, just letting the stuff go that doesn't really serve you. And I think that's probably the best way to be in life, is to learn from everyone and everything and every faith and every belief and every culture. And, if it feels right for you and it feels good and makes you feel, brings you joy in life, and, then, bring it into your belief system, make it part of your life. And if it doesn't align with you, then just forget it, because it doesn't serve you.
Shawn, what role do you feel that Indigenous teachings have right now in guiding humanity into the next phase of evolution that we're currently on?
Well, I think Indigenous people, like, I mean, because we never, they were very deeply connected to Mother Earth, to the spirit world. Our ceremonies were to connect us to our spirits and ancestors and to Mother Earth, and for healing, and for information. That I feel like, it wasn't an egotistical thing. There was no priest. I mean, there was medicine people that were very engaged in the connection to the spirit world and living life and expressing that in a way. But it wasn't something that they would share or not. There wasn't just one pipe carrier or one person that could do the sweat ceremony. It was like, let me show you how to do this so that you can do this yourself. It's more about empowering people to who you are and your connection, that celebration, and the balance in all things. And I think that's what Indigenous people had understood, is the balance in all things, that they didn't take more than they needed. They took what they did need for their family, etc., but they weren't living in excess. They weren't living from a place of fear. They were surrounded by abundance, and it's because that's what they saw everywhere they looked. And they would go into ceremony to even for the ancestors to kind of guide them as to where their summer camp should be or their winter camp. So they always included this body, mind, spirit connection. And I think that's what Indigenous people are remembering, because we've somewhat lost our culture too, due to assimilation of let's call it the mental mind virus of the world that has kind of taken root. And many Indigenous people even today still are struggling to remember who they are. But it doesn't mean that we won't remember who we are. I mean, it takes time sometimes for people to find themselves again. And I think that's what the world is doing. We're trying to find ourselves again as all Indigenous people of Mother Earth, not separate of each other. And I'm hoping Indigenous people can kind of help guide people instead of looking to the church, or guiding, or looking to your politician or something. I'm hoping that we, as spiritual people in general, because I do feel like we're all Indigenous from different parts of the world, and you, me, and other people, whether you're from Europe or wherever, there's teachers and masters that are here now that are sharing wisdom and knowledge to reawaken us and to help us to remember again who we are, and because they wouldn't be here teaching this if there wasn't an intention to kind of bring us together. Because I think ultimately what the Creator has given us is this kind of blank slate of the world to create what we choose. But I think he or she or they or it, whatever you want to call the Creator, the Great Spirit, is really hopeful that we will choose to create what is also on the other side.
To mirror the other side.
To mirror it. Because I feel like, the Creator has created perfection. And we're here to become creators and learn to co-create perfection here as well in some way. But we're given the opportunity to also create chaos, pain, hurt, disharmony. He has to give us that, or she or they or it, right? Has to give us that opportunity to choose to create perfection or to create imperfection. But ultimately, it's our choice. This is our playground to do this. Go forth and be who you are. And so that's why I say it's so important to say, who am I? Where do I come from? What do I wish to express into the world? What change in the world do I want to see? Do I want to express from me that ripples out into the world, that makes it a greater and better place, brings it closer to the space from which we truly are, which is that unconditional loving source.
And with all that said, what do you feel we as a collective are choosing right now and going forward?
Well, I feel like we're choosing that, and more people are choosing that. I feel like we are choosing to. We wouldn't be having this conversation today if we weren't choosing this. I mean, you're not doing a podcast because it's fun. I mean, I'm sure it's fun.
It is.
Good. You get wisdom and knowledge, right? But it's not just for
Uh-huh.
fun. You're
Right.
sharing this because you wish to have an effect on the world that profoundly changes people in a great way and helps them think, who they are and how they're showing up in the world. And I'm not here doing the interview because I think I'm going to sell another book. I don't care if I sell another book. I hope it would be amazing if I do, but that's not what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this because I want to help people remember who they are.
Hmm. Yeah, one of those teachings of the Indigenous is that you were mentioning how we have a connection to the sacred light. What is
Yeah.
what is that sacred light? How have you expressed it in your life?
Well, in indigenous culture, because we know that we're a spark of the divine, we even talk in our kind of teachings about that we've lived many lifetimes. That we even have a teaching about the spirit road, which we look up at the Milky Way and look at all the stars or the other suns within the Milky Way galaxy and say, and that we know those are our ancestors. That our world was created by a sun, another star, and even us, even within all of us, the physical emanation of the creation that you see all around us is because stars have gone supernova and created all the elements and particles from which all of physical reality can exist. But it all started as light. And the universe is a reflection of what happens in spirit of sorts. I mean, suns come in and out of existence. It might not seem like that. They last millions and millions and millions of years. But our star too will one day transcend and become something different and greater and grow and express itself in some type of other living things within the universe and have its own spark of divine experiences of sorts. And each sun started by in space. I mean, everything is there's a law of attraction that happens in space. Even maybe people don't know this, but certain particles in space, you bring them together, they fuse together. You don't have to weld them together. You don't have to put them together. They just come together because they are alike. So the creation of our sun is a direct manifestation of what and for all the earths and suns and moons and planets that happen around each star that allow physical life to be possible is because of the dust that's fused together and the process of the law of attraction that has brought certain particles together to form the physical formation of the earth. And there was hydrogen that comes from other stars, other planets that existed before to bring water and then eventually clouds and life. And then there's this evolution that takes place with even in the physical things within the planet. And I even feel like sometimes that evolution is brought here from other planets by other beings and other star people, because I feel like we're all star people. In the physical sense, we are star beings. And that's a teaching in indigenous culture. And that's why when in our ceremonies, when we start the morning, when we start the sweat, when we start the pipe ceremony, we look towards the sun in the east direction. We start these in the easterly direction where the first light had formed, where it forms each morning for us so that we can see it. And remember and reconnect to the creation of all things, which started with light. And I think, like I said, and there's different beliefs and faiths out there. Let's say even in Christianity, they said in the creation story of the Bible, it's like in the beginning there was light. Let there be light, and that's what happened. And it continues. Evolution is not something, or creation is not a process that happened like 14 billion years ago. And I think this is what science is figuring out, because they take the James Webb Space Telescope and they look further and further and further away, and they realize that their whole system of thinking that we were created 14 billion or a million years ago is out the window, because they see other formed universe or solar systems that predate that. That's not
Mm-hmm.
possible. What if creation is a process that always has existed and continues to take place in every moment? It's never started, it never will end, and will always just continue. And it's whether the star is our star, it'll be something else in the future, just like us. We won't be this form or this body. We're similar to the star itself. We'll lose our physical form and we'll return to just light, and then take on new bodies and new creations, maybe within new worlds and even new intelligences, let's say, of beings that maybe have advanced or evolved to a place that we need to kind of continue to grow. I don't think it ever stops until we get to a place that we feel like we've reached the ascended master consciousness. Then I feel like then we have a choice whether or not we wish to come in or not, or to come in to affect humanity at a certain time. And I think that's why different ascended masters come at different times. They're not signing up for lifetimes every other week. They're like, okay, well, 2,000 years. Okay, I think I can go back now. Yeah, I'll do that. But that's where I think we're all kind of evolving to, in some sense, is to evolve to a higher level of consciousness that we feel like we don't even need to remember who we are through this experience anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different even realities, different dimensions of space time, and even dimensions of spaces that there is no time. And I mean, the universe is so much greater and bigger than we can even comprehend, and we only are beginning to understand a small little part of it. And I'm excited. I'm excited because I feel in the next 100 years and beyond my lifetime, we'll be at other stars, we'll be at other planets. I feel we're going to have direct communication with other star beings who are much more advanced than we are. I'm excited to learn what they know. I think we know it on a spiritual level, but I'm excited for the human nation to see how other nations live, because maybe when we see other beings in other worlds and how they live, it will inspire us even greater to evolve and grow more than we are right now. But I don't think it's a process that will ever end. But grandfather son, that first sacred light, when you look at it, think about it. You are light too. You are a star being. You've existed in no form, but also in form. In the physical body, the physical world, every plant, tree, animal, ocean exists because of a star that went supernova somewhere.
It's all connected.
It is.
And
Okay.
there's
We're all
things that we can't even comprehend intellectually, but when you describe it, it's a felt sense of there's something way beyond us. And also we are part of that divinity that created all of this.
We're not only the star, we're the universe. Like, it's like there's nothing that we are not. I mean, some people even have trouble seeing the world, or the blade of grass, or the trees, or the ocean as being part of us, let alone the stars and other planets and the Milky Way and other, solar systems that are out in the world and universes, etc. So there's much more that we're yet to discover, and I'm excited to discover them. That's why we've shown up here, is because we, in the spirit world, we know all this, but to really discover it, to really truly, because if you already know it, I mean, there's really nothing to learn. But when you come here, you can discover it and learn who you are. And it never stops. It never, like, our understanding or comprehension of the universe and how everything works and how it's all connected will never stop, because it's so complex and so much bigger. That's why, the creator is accumulation of all things and all experiences and all those lights as one. Just imagine, like, the best way I can put this is like, if the universe was the body of our creator, and each solar system, is like a cell within the creator, and within the cell there's subcells and subatomic particles and quarks, and you break it down and further, there's like so many infinite possibilities of things that exist within each cell. But I see the universe as the creator, and the ultimate unconditional loving intelligence that exists. And I mean, it could, I mean, it's a bit like us looking at ourselves and go, well, I don't really like my hand. It's kind of a shitty hand. I wish it got better. It'd be silly, right? To have a body and then hate part of your hand. I mean, the creator doesn't do that. The creator doesn't express itself that way. It can work, and this is why we can change yourself too, even how we think and feel and interact with life. That's why we can change our body, mind, and spirit, is because we have the ability to form and shape our reality physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I know the creator does that in the most amazing ways, but we are, as a individual spark within the universe of a whole, we also have that ability to do the same thing that our creator is doing within the universe.
Beautiful. Shawn, we end every episode with a segment called the final trio, which are
Okay.
some questions that we like to ask at the end. But before that, where would you send people to connect with you, with your body of work and all the teachings that you're putting forth to help people remember who they truly are, rooted in indigenous teachings and mediumship and all these other beautiful spiritual avenues?
Well, I mean, my website, if people want to go to my website, that's a great place to go to learn about the books and things that I'm putting out. There are new books that are coming out. But really, like, I would say, to really connect, to really learn and feel your source, is to have a sacred space for yourself in the world somewhere, not just my book, wherever my website, but, create a space in the world for you. Could be a little spot in the woods that you go and sit and just listen to the trees and be present and mindful, and then contemplate, who you are in the bigger picture of the universe, etc. But, create a sacred space for yourself. That's the ultimate, is just to have a personal connection with the divine, and reconnect with that true essence of source that's within you.
Hmm. And what I love most about these conversations is that we actually took some time aside before recording to create a sacred space and a sacred container, making this feel as close to a ceremony as possible, which I think we are pretty close.
Yeah, I think so
And
too. I mean, I kind of get in the zone and I just start talking, and sometimes I can't stop. But I feel like sometimes, I mean, obviously there's points that we're all channeling, right? That we're all just like spirits kind of inspiring us to say what needs to be said, and that is the ceremony. Like, we set that space at the beginning that you had set for us, and I appreciate that very much, Emilio. It's that you're the first person where I've come on to you have a conversation where this has happened. So thank you for doing that, and please keep doing that with your guests in the future too.
mm,
And I feel very honored to share thoughts and conversation with you today, and thank you for everybody out in the world for listening, and just being open-minded enough to contemplate the things that we talked about. I'm just grateful for these spaces that you've created, that other people have created in the world, so that we can find other places to again remember who we are.
beautiful. I'm going to ask you these three final questions that
Sure.
the first two are personalized to each guest, and the last one
Okay.
we ask at the end of every show. Um, the first one is, it's a personal question. Feel free to dive as deep as you want with this one, but
Okay.
what is the most memorable or profound ceremony that has shifted you the most in your life that you've
Well,
been a
this is
part
an
of?
easy one, and it's something that I teach because I have an online course called Spirit Talker Tribe, and it's in my module 1. And I teach about prayer and conversation that you have with the spirit world. And a lot of people, not a lot of people are doing this. And because I talked about having your own personal sacred space and that you could go to, but I have an exercise that I've done personally, and then I share with everyone, that I hope that everybody will do, is that you'll write something to the universe, to the creator, and that um, you'll go somewhere off by yourself in the woods, for the day, for for a few hours or however long you feel like you need to be there, that you smudge, that you light a candle, or you have a sacred fire, and you just sit there, and you either write your letter there, or you write it and you go to the sacred space and you read it out loud. So you sit there and you tell Creator where you're struggling, what you need help with, where you need guidance, where to help you to find your path, your way, to help you, find the courage, the strength, the determination to keep going, or whatever it is that you're struggling with or need help with or guidance with in life, that you really go to this space and call upon the Creator, your ancestors, your angels, your spiritual guides, everybody. You call them all in just to sit here and listen to you speak for this moment. And you speak to them from what you've written, from your heart, and as loudly and as clearly as you can. Not yelling, but just speak out loud. And just clearly from your and speaking from your heart, and your as acutely as you can from your mental ability. Just speak as clearly as you can, and just give it to them. I think that's the most profound ceremony that any person can do, because it's a divine connection that you have with all that is around you, all of your relations, and that you ask to be heard in this moment, and you invite them to hear you. And then you leave, and then you go, and just see how that shows up in your life.
Thank you for sharing that. Powerful. The second question I have for you is, what is one message from Spirit that changed you forever and that you still hold very close to your heart?
Well, I actually have a recording of this. And it sometimes, my life's a little weird, I guess, let's say. Sometimes I record spirits talking.
Yeah.
Just like a digi-recorder. I'll be out and about, and sometimes I'll record a spirit saying something to me. Now, I've run into different spirits that sometimes are earthbound, that they choose to be. It's nobody's like saying, you can't come on the other side, you're staying here. No, it's like, no, they choose to be here. And I've run into a few here and there that I've tried to help. And there was one spirit that I connected. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's an audio clip that you'll find on there of two spirits talking to each other. And one of the spirits is telling me his name is Howard Carter. Now, he was a spirit that I felt, for whatever reason, was hanging out on this island, and I found very little information about who he was, but he was saying his name was Howard Carter. And so anyway, I was trying to help him. I lit some sage and offered him tobacco, and as guiding him to go home, find his way home to the light, and remembering who he truly was, right? And but I recorded my guide talking to him, and she says something, because I have one of my spiritual guides is named Victoria, and they always sometimes have this very whispery type of voice. And she says something to him that I always remember and I think about. And she was talking to Howard Carter, and she says to him, the light way, the light is. The light way. She was telling him the light is the way, and the light is. Not in some distant place, but it's within him. And she was helping him remember who he was. The light is the way. And remember, the light is. It's in you. It's there. And she was helping him reconnect himself to Source. And she just said that word, the light way, the light is. And I have a recording of her saying it to him. And when I listen to it, and even when she says, you can even hear the emphasis in her voice when she speaks. She goes, the light way. And she goes, the light is. She emphasizes is. Like she's really trying to get through to him. And I thought, that's so incredible that here I'm trying to help this person, but Spirit is also assisting me to help him. And what is she helping him remember? that he is the light, and the light is the way, and the light exists within him, and that it is there. And it's her words, mind you. This is what I feel she was saying to him. And so that's what I feel was very profound, that I've been told, not necessarily to me, but I heard, not spoken to me, but spoken to another spirit.
Wow. I'm going to invite everyone to go over to your YouTube channel, and we'll actually link below that video where they can listen to that audio.
Yeah.
The first person that came up when I looked up Howard Carter, and this is for those that feel some sort of connection with Egypt. It says Howard Carter was a British archaeologist and Egyptologist who discovered the intact tomb of the 18th dynasty pharaoh Tutankhamun in November 1922, the best preserved pharaonic tomb ever found in the Valley of Kings.
Wow.
I don't know if it's the same dude.
I don't know if it's the same guy either. I mean, sure, there's a
That's
few Howard
interesting.
Carters kicking around. It might be. Who knows, right? Who knows? Anything's possible. And but whoever the real Howard Carter is, if it's this man or someone else, I know. I feel like, between me and my guide, I feel like he found his way home.
Yeah, that's what matters. Beautiful, brother. Such powerful teachings coming through, and we'll save room for one final question that we ask at the end of every show. We call it the time capsule question, and it requires us to travel a little bit out into the future, around 15 to 20 years. I chose out those time frames because I believe that's going to be a time in history when the young generations of today will be stepping more into leadership positions around the world, and they're really going to be in responsibility to lead humanity into this next era. And just like any great leader that we've come across, they've been surrounded by great mentors, great access and resources to knowledge, to wisdom, to sacred teachings. And you had the opportunity to leave behind a time capsule for them that they would open when the time was ripe for them to lead into this next golden age. And you could include anything that you want in there, from physical to non-physical, but just knowing that when they open your time capsule, they will be best equipped with whatever you feel is the most important thing to include to help them in this next journey of leadership and co-creatorship with Mother Earth and the universe. What would you leave behind for the next generations?
I would leave a statement, and again, I would probably write it in Mi'kmaq, but I'd also translate it, and it would literally just say "Em Sit Nogama," and it would, in the translation, means all my relations. We are all related. We are all connected. And I would break down that teaching for them to help them as they move forward through life, is to think about how you're connected to the universe, how you're connected to Mother Earth, the oceans, the grass, the animal nation, the plant nation, all that we're a one nation. That's why in all of our ceremonies, we started by saying Em Sit Nogama, and we ended by saying Em Sit Nogama, because it's the most important part to remember, that we are all related, we are all connected.
Mm. And I will also end with pure gratitude and reverence to you, Shawn, for not only imparting so many of these beautiful teachings to humanity, but also doing it with such an open heart and authenticity. So I really appreciate this. I know I would love to keep doing these conversations with you and weaving together.
Sure.
This is the first of many, let's say, volume 1.
Yes.
But thank you so much for being here, and I hope to do this again very soon, brother.
Well, same to you, Emilio. And please, whenever you like to have me back, just let me know. I'd love to be a guest again and converse more and go deeper down the rabbit hole about many things. So, and I'm still evolving and learning and growing myself, and I'm always learning new things from Spirit, and I definitely love to share, because again, the Creator doesn't say, "Hey, well, here, Shawn, here's this gift of knowledge." Yeah, don't tell anyone. No, I can't wait
Mm,
to tell people. I can't wait to share it with people. I can't wait to help people just think a little bit differently for a moment. Hopefully it'll profoundly change their life and affect their life, that they become the people they need to be and show up in the world in a good way. And that's really ultimately my hope. And so thank you for the space and time, and thank you for your intention and your work and your energy. And I appreciate you, Emilio, and I appreciate all the people listening. So thank you. And yeah, may we all kind of move together in the world and make it a greater place.
thank you for all that love, brother. Until next time.